afternoon, good evening, good morning to people here. Folks, it's your man, always George Page, aka the Emperor of Female Vitamin Talk, coming to you live on YouTube. Folks, can you believe it? We got one more day. Seems like we just started 2026. We're just halfway through it. It is spring again. Time is flying by. Another day, another year. So, folks, busy week. Coming up, we got some shows coming up next month. It's going to be kind of slow for women's bodybuilding, but women's physique has some activity. We have here a lady who is also a women's physique competitor, Olympia, and Master Olympia, two-time Master Olympia. We have here the lovely Miss Ann Gruber, and Miss Gruber just competed about a couple of weeks ago at the Puerto Rico Pro. As you know, the show made its return after almost a 4-year absence. I want to say welcome and thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And you're welcome. As you know, she did women's bodybuilding and also women's physique at the Puerto Rico. And now she's qualified for 2027's Masters Olympia. She competed last year, 2025, where she got a qualification at the Triple O Dynasty in 2024. And also, it was her first Olympia. She won both women's physique and open and masters at that show. So, as you know, she's the first and last champion because, the Triple O no longer has women's physique. So we want to talk to her, her experiences, and also what her plans for the rest of this year. So, ma'am, thank you again. So this is the first question I'd like to ask you. What got you started in sports? I call it muscle and masculinity. Please share.
Well, I was always really, really into sports and athletic. I played tennis my whole life. I started playing tennis when I was 3 and just always had something competitive going on in my life, and I played tennis in college. At a pretty high level. And then when I was in college, it was funny, I just reconnected with an old college friend and she reminded me that she's been following my journey and she remembers when I used to train with this guy, Mark, and I went to school in upstate New York. And I remember I had gained the freshman 15 in college and food was never a thing for me. I was just always really, really skinny. I started weight training my my senior year of high school just to get my arms bigger because people made fun of me and said I was disgusting because my arms were so little. And to me, that's just as offensive. It was just as hurtful. You know what I mean? So I started weight training and I really got into it and I started training with a trainer in college. And, I remember looking at magazines, the Oxygen magazine and Muscle and Fitness, hers, and thinking to myself, I want to be one of those girls. And it was, women that competed. And I knew at 18 or 19 that I wanted to compete one day. And so I started just training with trainers and learning, and I got my personal training certification. And I didn't actually step on stage for the first time until I was 30. So all in my 20s, I was just weight training and I was going to law school. I was busy. I was kind of trying to build my career. And that's I had that in my head. I quit playing tennis after college and I needed something else competitive to focus on. So I knew eventually I wanted to compete. I had this desire for 12 years before I even stepped on stage. So that's what kind of got me into it. And then I eventually met a trainer named Howard Aaron. I live near Philadelphia, about 20 minutes from Philly in South Jersey. And at the time I was living in Philadelphia, I was working as an attorney in Philadelphia and going to a gym. And this trainer, Howard, was my very first mentor, my very first coach. And he suggested I compete. And I said, well, I want to, and he it was the one who nudged me into it and prepped me for my first show, which my first show was a OCB natural show, the OCB Federation. So my first 2 shows were OCB shows in 2009. And then after that, I moved to the NPC. So that was as soon as I did it, I knew this was for me. The prep, everything about it. I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the start. I mean, I remember when I was younger, I tried for tennis. I wasn't that good at it.
Yeah.
I was a big dude. I played football as a kid.
Yeah.
And
football player.
yeah, I did that. My brother, he was the one who was really the star of our family. He played up till he got to college. He did a couple of years, but he like us, a country boy. He missed being at home, so he came back. But I mean, and law, that's very interesting. What got you interested in law?
Well, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was an English major and I really wanted to be a writer. And I loved English and I loved creative writing. And, when you graduate with an English major, there's two things you can do. You can either become a teacher or you go to law school, they said. So I loved school. I wasn't sure that I wanted to be a lawyer, but I knew that I wouldn't mind extending school another 3 years. So I decided to go to law school and which I enjoyed, and I was really into training at that point, like going to the gym and everything. Um, and I really never enjoyed working in the legal field. I hated sitting at a desk all day. I hated being inside. So for me, the work itself was torturous. I felt like I was doing the crap work for all the people that were doing fun things. I worked in franchise law, so I was, you know, actually working for the people help like open franchises and like open businesses. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to start my own business. So, and eventually that's what I did. I opened my own personal training studio and it was like a dream come true. So it was
Well, that's
cool.
good. That's good to hear that background that helps you out, open up your next business.
Yeah.
Law is tough. You're actually one of two ladies have any of you have a law degree. I
Okay.
don't know. You remember? I think you lady competed with against in the Olympia was Mariana Van Gacke.
Oh
She's a
yeah.
lawyer back. Yeah, she's a lawyer back
Oh, I
in
didn't know
Chile.
that. Yeah, I'm friendly with her. Yeah.
She does family law.
Oh,
Amazing
cool.
lady. Her son's autistic. Shout out to her. Hope we might see her compete
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
So after experience, you were doing natural bodybuilding, and you switch over to NPC. What
Yeah.
was the division that you started in? Because everybody has that start.
Yeah. So when I started in 2009, all they had was figure and bodybuilding, and that was it. Right. So they didn't have any of the other women. They didn't have bikini. They didn't have women's physique. So I started in figure, which I sent you those you saw those two pictures of when I first started. 98 pounds, like soaking wet on stage. You know what I mean? And it was, and it was fine. Like I thought I looked great, you know what I mean? And because you have no idea, like, so uh, I started in women's figure and I did that for several years. And then women's physique came into the scene. I'm not even sure what year it was, but it was sometime after 2009, 2010. It was like 2012, maybe, I don't know. And I had to kind of grow into women's physique. I eventually switched over to women's physique, like, in 2014 or something like that, I think. So it took me a little bit of time, to put some muscle on, but that just felt a little more natural to me. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I was fighting body for a long time. Back then, there was only one division for women where it was bodybuilding.
right,
And my ladies got their starts from that one. And then later on, fitness came along. But if you didn't want to do out around chicken and jump around chicken sweat,
right.
you didn't have that offer. Then here comes figure, which I think kind of like a classic version of
Yeah,
women's bodybuilding. Because when women's bodybuilding first started, like in the late '70s, they were wearing high heels.
right.
And
Okay.
then the other division came along because I think it's like the evolution of every woman
Hmm.
in the process as they
Yeah,
develop. And I know you're happy to get off those clear heels, like get those things off.
yeah, yeah. I'm not a high heel person at all. So that was tough. So I was pretty happy to switch over to women's physique, and the reason I did, my very first coach was uh, Kimoto, and I used him for the first year or two in my figure category. And then I moved over because I'm over here on the East Coast. I moved and Fakri Mubarak was my coach for several years. And he's really the one who transformed my physique. I really got into putting muscle on um, and with him that's when I switched over to physique from figure. So that was pretty cool. I learned a lot from him initially. So that was kind of my transition. Yeah.
That's good. It's like an evolution of every athlete. I got here, excuse me, I can put my old man glasses on and get another. So I got
Yeah.
here guests here. We got here is, I think is Matella Vecchi Bodybuilding. It says, and Gruber is cool. Yeah, shout out to
Yeah.
you.
I
Thank
follow
you.
Mattia. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you know,
Italy.
Italy.
Yeah. It's
Jeez.
from Italy.
Yeah, I had a guy come here. He's from Croatia. I have guys come from UK. I mean, it's just bodybuilding. If you look at it, it's even though it's kind of a small niche sport, it's kind of worldwide. It's
Yep.
when you go to the Olympia, you have women coming far as Brazil and Great Britain and South America. I mean,
Hmm.
Japan. I mean, you like again. You went to the Masters O in 2025
Yeah.
in Japan. What's that experience like? Going to a different country and you know.
So that's why I continue to do it. So it's been 18 years of competing, right? And after a while, you're kind of like, why am I doing this? You know what I mean? Because it gets challenging. It gets more and more challenging. I mean, these some of these younger girls that are coming up. I mean, they just look better and better. Everybody looks better and better. The evolution of the sport just gets harder and harder. I feel like, um, and I wouldn't say I'm genetically blessed with all of the characteristics I need to be super successful. So it's constantly like build your back, build your legs to try to make that waist narrow. I just don't have. So it's been hard, but what I love the most about the sport is the places it's given me the opportunity to go that I never would have gone. Like I'd never had Tokyo on my bucket list of places to visit, and I didn't want to pass up this opportunity to compete at Masters Olympia. And I went, and it was probably one of the best experiences of my life. I'm so happy I got to experience that country. And it was just an unbelievable place to be. Just such a learning experience about their culture, and the food, like you said, was unbelievable. And um, so I had a great time, and that's something I never would have done if I wasn't competing in bodybuilding, So that's what I love. I really try to take advantage of these opportunities to go to new places now, and it's not just about winning anymore because this is ultimately a hobby. And I'm picking more shows where it's taking me to some unique places, things I want to see. That's why I said like I'd love it if Masters Olympia was in Italy next year. Like that would be a dream come true because I'm such a foodie, and I would friggin' love to like eat my way around, after the show there, or just so things like that. Like that's what I love about the sport.
Man, I'm a poor old country boy. I think I've been to a couple of places, ma'am. I've been to Florida at least 3 times in my life. Been to Georgia a
Hmm.
couple of times. Been to Virginia. Actually, my first Spider-Man show we talked about this earlier was Savannah in 2022,
Okay.
and that was an experience for me to be there and meet some of the
Uh,
ladies. Some ladies I interviewed, some ladies I follow on social media. It was a great event. One of the sad was that the train back, I missed it. But my niece, she lived in Atlanta, so she came 3 hours up to take her old uncle home. So that's a blessing.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
shout out. We have here another again. We have here my man Dos coming through. He says hi to everyone. Hi Dos. Dos is from Croatia. He is a fan.
Okay.
Also,
Cool.
we have him. Matei says yes. A surprise when she followed me first. Wow,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the thing. I enjoy when sometimes ladies, y'all ladies follow me. I think it's like she's following me.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. I mean, I feel like because
Yeah.
I'm a fan, and I have to admit my crime here when I'm sitting here, you talking to you. I am a muscle personal. I just love y'all ladies. Y'all just y'all bring out another part of me. The other guy, he's
Mhm.
just fine. Y'all ladies very intoxicating and exciting.
Yeah.
I try to keep him on the wraps, but sometimes he pops out there, and I do. So you turned pro in 2016. What was that feeling like for you that first time when they say after a long time competing and
Yeah.
then finally getting that
Yep.
pro card?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's been 8 years competing as in the NPC, and just finally getting that pro card. I got it that year I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to set aside my thoughts about this pro card because it had been too much of a focus. And I thought, I may never get it. But if I don't ever get it, I don't care. I love competing so much. I love the process. I would be doing this whether I have a pro card or not. And that was the first year where I wasn't worried about the pro card. I had no stress. I went into it without any pressure. I was competing in women's physique, and it all just kind of fell together. I had won the overall at the South Jersey Championships that year. Then I went right to Team Universe, it was called then, and I got my pro card finally, and it was like it felt amazing. And like honestly, I knew I was going to continue because you see a lot of these people get their pro cards and then they don't compete at the pro level. But I just love competing so much. I was like, oh, this is going to be I'm going to have to start at the bottom again. I know I'm going to be like the worst, and have to work my way up. But I didn't care. I love that. I love that challenge, something else to build up towards. So, And your show experience is so much more enjoyable. I feel like at the pro level, there's less girls backstage. You're kind of taken care of a little better. The check-in process is easier. Things just run a little smoother. Um, and so my shows just became a lot more enjoyable and less stressful too. So I kind of loved switching over to the pro level.
Yeah, I think like especially when you come from the NPC up to the IFB, it's like you have to start all over again. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
and that experience of I know ladies who have competed for a long time as an amateur and then finally get that pro card, and we also see ladies who maybe just a couple of years in the as amateur and then boom. Sometimes you have some phenoms every now and then.
Yeah.
It's a process, and I think that's one thing people need to understand that it's a process of developing and growing
Hmm.
and also everything involves with like consistency and
Yeah.
determination and persistence and patience because it's not for anybody who doesn't have the patience.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's taken years. You know what I mean? Years to put on muscle. And I feel like some people think I see these people nowadays, they come in, they start competing and they're like road to pro in their first year as an amateur. And I'm like, oh my God, like took me 8 years. Like that's, it could take you 8 years, and they just kind of stop after they don't get their pro card in 2 years, thinking it should happen overnight. And I've just never had that attitude, you know what I mean? Like I'm always been extremely consistent with things, and I would say the discipline, and I just love the process, I'm not so focused on the result as I am the process. So yeah.
We have a comment from my man Dose that says, uh, especially to Ann, to pretty Ann, he's a fan.
Thank you.
Also, he says this, shout out to Dose, give me a second. My cute's that's kind of funny.
Mm.
He says this, he says, can she pose a little bit, please? No, she's not. She's sitting here and she's with me. You should ask. Also, he also says this, says, how many times and doing shows a year? So I know last year you only did the
Uh,
Masters Olympia. What
yeah.
was
Yeah,
because you usually
that's
might do two shows or more, especially
yeah. I do. I usually do a couple shows. And yeah, last year I just did Masters Olympia, which I wish I hadn't. I wish I had done more because, my last two shows were Olympia and then Masters Olympia. And they were kind of like esteem crushers for me. You know, you're competing with the best in the world. But the problem is, when you're preparing for a show, it doesn't really feel like that anymore. It just feels like another show. And, I didn't really do well. I didn't do well in Olympia. I ended up being like second to last place. And then Masters Olympia, I came in around like 15th or 16th out of however many, 22 or something. And it felt bad for some reason. I didn't feel good about myself. And people remind me all the time, well, you were, so blessed to be there. Like it's a big deal to be there. And yes, I agree. But at the end of the day, it still kind of is a little bit crushing. You know what I mean? It still kind of makes you feel a little bit bad. So I wish I had done like a normal regional show to kind of give me a little bit of confidence. You know what I mean? Even just getting the first call out at a show or whatever. Um, and I didn't do that last year, which was fine. I just wanted to put all my focus into Masters Olympia. And then after Masters Olympia, I said to myself, you know what? I wasn't even sure if I wanted to compete anymore because I kind of felt like I couldn't compete with these women's physique girls. I just was like, I'm not getting better. I'm doing worse. And I needed to kind of rethink what I was doing. Um, and I'll tell you, just to kind of go back why I ended up trying out bodybuilding, when I did Triple Dynasties, Sandy Williamson was the head judge. And, I won that show. But she came up to me after the show and we chatted. And her first, criticism was my waist, which it's always been a problem. I just am wide waisted. It's just my genetics. You know what I mean? So I'm constantly building my back, building my legs, building my back. I crush it, and it's just very hard. It's been extremely taken a lot of time, to try to make that waistline look smaller, but it's still, apparent on stage when I stand in that front, relaxed in my front double by. Those are weak shots for me, And I feel like women's physique, that's the focus, that first look, when you come out. So she said to me, I think you should switch to women's bodybuilding. I think you would do really well in that category. And I was surprised. I was like, oh, I'm so small. She was like, structurally, you're going to fit better in the category. So I let it mull over my head, you know what I mean? And I decided I would go ahead and do Masters Olympia in the women's physique, which I had qualified for women's physique and Masters Olympia. And then I kind of, after I got over feeling bad for myself after Masters Olympia, um, I noticed the Puerto Rico show was put on the schedule, back on the schedule. It'd been a couple years and it had always been my favorite show. I would do it every year. I loved it because it's like a vacation. It's so well run. Tim Gardner does an amazing job and it's just fun and relaxing. And I saw they had all these masters categories, women's bodybuilding, women's physique. And I was like, you know what, this is my opportunity. I'm going to do masters. I'm 48 years old. Um, and I'm going to jump into bodybuilding and I'll do both women's physique and see how it goes. I got nothing to lose and this is fun. This is supposed to be fun. And so that's what I did. And that's why. So now I would like, do normally do 2 shows a year, but that's kind of why last year I just focused on the one since it was a big show. It's a big expense going to Tokyo and everything. So, but
Yeah,
yeah.
because that's the thing about bodybuilding. It's not like if you look at mainstream sports where you can make a living off of, you
Hmm.
can get endorsements and like that. Bodybuilding is basically it's mostly it's mostly a hobby sport. Some people look
Yeah.
at it. You're putting more money in it and get less back, unless you're the
Right.
handful of people like who are the top 2-3% of the sport. You look at the top Olympians, like you just had the Arnold Schwarzenegger shows back to back, and
Hmm.
Andrew Jack wins like $1 million.
Right.
Um, One gentleman who I got to meet when I was at Tampa last year, Derek Lundford, who's right now sitting on top of Miss Olympia, he gets like nearly almost over a quarter of $500,000, and
Hmm.
and you women, you put in I think a good amount more to compete because the guys have the cost expenses doing off season, but all they got to wear is a pair of
Yeah.
banana hammocks and board shorts.
Right. Right.
You ladies have to have a presentation. Like
Right.
you do figure or physique or wellness or the other divisions where you have to wear high heels. You have to have
Hmm.
designer,
Yeah.
suits. Your hair, makeup has to be done. And then you have to put in stuff like tanning.
Yeah.
Also, travel expenses. If you do masters, you're paying entry fees for each
Yeah.
class. I
Exactly.
mean, that's a costly sport. We have
Yeah.
here some comments here. Shout out to my guests. I have a lot of these guys. Hey, and when I get these guys in, they get excited when I get these girls in here. We have here one Dan Murphy saying, "Hey, Ann, saw you at
Oh,
Triple O
cool.
2 years ago when you won women's physique there. I appreciate that."
That's
We have
awesome.
here also, this is from a man, Curtis Jr. He comes and says, "You so got good smile, like it."
Thank you.
Also, shout out to my man Dose. He says, um, how is she training her injuries if she's ever had them?
I have not. So I've been really blessed. Yeah. I mean, maybe, all I say the worst I've had is I've started to get some arthritis in my knees and some like the collagen is like wearing out or the cartilage. So I actually get those gel shots which kind of act like cartilage and it's amazing. It clears it up for like a year.
Yeah,
So,
I think I got to go back to my orthopedics in another couple of months because I got one last year too. Yeah, I
yeah.
was getting before because I'm a big dude and I got two
Yeah.
bad knees like Stone Cold Steve Austin's. I got genetics and also
Yeah.
I have a pacemaker. I had it for about 12 years. This coming up in October because you're 48. You're still a young bud. I'm
Mhm.
about to be 52.
No, you don't
Time
look it.
flies on us. And we're athletes. We play sports. We ran around. We did a lot of stuff. We have
Hmm.
here something else. Shout out to my man here. This is from uh It says Helen Obi says, "You so beautiful."
Thank you.
Also, shout out to my man Dosa says, "Can she live from bodybuilding?" I think he said, "Can
No.
you leave?" For bodybuilding, like
Or I didn't know if you meant can you live off of what you make from bodybuilding, which we just said no.
no, he can't.
Um,
'Cause
but
unless
yeah,
you unless a few people get sponsorship, like
Right.
cover the cost of your trips, your this, and also
Exactly.
you have a career outside of being in law, and that is
Right.
a instructor, a trainer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's my main thing. My full-time job is as a personal trainer, and I love it. Like I love what I do every morning. So, I'm eat, sleep, breathing the gym and being around people and helping people and training and just I love my life, I just feel so blessed, you know. It's I have no complaints. So, and that provides me what I need, the money I need. I'm very comfortable. Actually, I have no kids. So I only have me to take care of and I'm like living my best life, and like for me, bodybuilding is a hobby, something I take very seriously. That's like in my life 24/7, right? But I'm just a very regimented, routine oriented person. So it like fits very well into my schedule. That's why I
Yeah.
love it so much. So,
Yeah. I can understand. Like, I don't have any children. I had just me to take care of because I
yeah.
was for a long time. I was taking care of my mom, and she was sick. And to me, like, if you any boy, your mom is your best friend. Your mom's your woman. She was my woman.
Hmm.
And then when she passed, I realized I only have me to take care of. At one point, I was almost 500 pounds
Okay.
because the stress of taking care of her and food is seen as a comfort. It's
Hmm.
part of building the body as a bodybuilder, but
Yeah.
for any people, it seems a comfort because it helps when you go
Yeah.
to stress. You just find something that. And then when I say, you know what, it's time for me to take care of me. Went to my doctor about a couple of weeks ago. I'm like 416. It's really pretty good, but I'm not perfect. I mean, there's
Hmm.
temptations. You say you're a foodie, so am I. I
Yeah.
like a nice. What you
Yeah.
we say is your favorite thing if you could have it right now?
I am such a foodie too. I'm really mac. I'm comfort food, so like I love mac and cheese and fried chicken and I love burgers and fries and stuff. I mean, I like pizza, but that probably wouldn't be my first go-to. But yeah, I'm a comfort food American. I love Italian, but again, if I'm picking my post-show meal in Puerto Rico was truffle mac and cheese, which was like unbelievable, and I got the most unbelievable burger that had shoestring fries in it and a fried egg and with this pork beef. It was unbelievable. So I'm still thinking about it. But yeah, that then my other thing, I've got like a huge sweet tooth. So the first thing, like I'm main like if I had to pick sweet or salty, I'm picking sweet. And I love donuts. I'm very picky about my donuts. But yeah, donuts and baked goods are my thing too. So
Carbs, and you can't have carbs. You know that.
I know.
Carbs for bodybuilders like this. Like there was a movie called New Jack City. Remember it? Chris Rock
Yeah.
plays Pookie, and carbs like this. Be like, be calling me man, be calling my name, be calling me
Uh-huh.
man.
I
Yeah,
know.
because yeah,
Sugar
because
really is a drug for me. It's like once I start, ugh,
it's
fireworks are
it.
like
I mean, watch things. It is addictive because
it is.
it hits our pleasure centers when like I know because I gotta be careful. I'm pre-diabetic. My mother's diabetic. I got a sister's diabetic. I try to be smart, but every now and then, if like I eat fruit every now, but then you like a nice cookie or piece of cake or like
Uh-huh. Yeah, fruit
something
just doesn't.
sweet. Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't just hit. It
Hmm.
tastes good when you make banana pudding like my mom used to make with the little cookies like
Right.
that. Yeah. So, folks, we're gonna do this for Ann. We're gonna jump into her social media for a little bit. If you want to follow her and check out her links, they're in the description of this live. You want to support her? If you're somebody interested in maybe sponsoring her, these athletes can use that. But guys, and I know you guys out there, I know you're like me. Ann's a lovely lady. She's got her hair done on that here. But guys, don't be weird. Be genuine in your interest. Don't be that guy
Yeah.
who's saying, "Hey, Ann, I sent you something in your DMs." Click, 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 click. No,
Right.
no D pics. Stop it. Get some help, you sick freak. So we're gonna jump into her social media for a little bit. You want to check this out? Now here she is. Oh, wait a minute. I was on
Mm.
somebody else's earlier. Excuse me for a second. I was working on some stuff. Give me a second. Where we go here, and here, and we are here. And here she is from the shout out to Tim Gardner. I got to meet the gentleman when I was at
Hmm.
Puerto Rico. Here she is. She's
Yeah.
doing the women's bodybuilding side pose. You're doing both women's physique in the 40 and women's bodybuilding in 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that experience like being there again in Tampa? I mean, in Puerto
In
Rico.
Puerto
It's such been
Rico.
such a long. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Honestly, it was probably the best show experience I've had this past the couple weekends ago. It was just the show was amazing. Everything, the accommodations, the venue at the Puerto Rico Convention Center. These are all from Olympia in 2024, those pictures. But yeah, it was just the most amazing experience. And it was cool. It was mainly a master show, so it was only open figure and open men's physique. But all the ladies are just so nice in the women's physique and women's bodybuilding categories, so it was just great to be back, see them and be backstage. And there was a couple girls that I, pretty friendly with, and it was really nice to catch up with them. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
And here she is from Tupelo, and this is she sent me one of these pictures with her when I make request. This is a beautiful look. Look at her
Yeah,
shoulders. I don't. Your waistline is pretty good. How
it looks,
your
yeah,
it looks to me. I mean, maybe I think compared to like others, like you look at Natalia and a couple other ladies,
right.
it looks really good here. I mean,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah,
Triple
there
O.
it was good. A lot goes into it. Like that suit for some reason was making my waist look a little more narrow. My legs for some reason, my quads were really full. We really peaked nicely for that show, but I still feel like there were some weaknesses. I felt like my midsection was a little bit kind of sticking out. I don't know.
Yeah,
I can always find something to criticize myself about, so
yeah. Triple O, that's run by my girlfriend, Andrea Shaw.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of hers. Here she is
Yeah.
training. What's the training regimen like for you during your weeks?
So I train once a week with my coach who you see there, Fred Smalls. And we typically, that was a sort of a pre-show workout, but normally we train legs together. That's all we do. We've just been crushing legs together for the past 4 or 5 years. Um, and then other than that, I train on my own. So I'm training 5, 6 days a week. I mean, it's probably a little much sometimes, but I just love it so much. Honestly, for me, bodybuilding and exercise is like my antidepressant. Like it just gives me those endorphins. It makes me feel great mentally and emotionally, spiritually. So, I train because I love it, at this
Yeah.
point, not because I have to. So,
We Yeah, we feel like your best feature because for me, I'm looking right now from these videos, is your back. It seems like your
yeah.
back is just conditions
Hmm.
really good. Your shoulder width, your detail, you have deep grainy muscle. What you feel
Yeah.
like is that your best? You feel like that's your best?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. My back is, and it just, even from a strength perspective, everything perspective, my back has always been my strong suit, So most of my poses from the back and from the side are like my money poses. And yeah, you'll see a million. So then in the offseason, we start in with the food reviews, like a huge
Yeah,
foodie.
I think a
So,
lot of quite a few bodybuilders I've discussed are into food because you know what,
uh-huh.
it's you kind of limit yourself when you're on prep, but then you get the opportunity to have that post show
Mhm.
meal. You talk about the macaroni and the
Yeah,
truffles, and here she is with a coach. This is a coach, Fred Biggie Small. Shout out to him.
yeah,
We have the opportunity and the privilege to train IFBB Pro, women's physique competitor, and Gruber. And it's been with me for, gosh, I think 5 or 6 years now. And we started out just posing, went into just training in the gym. And now in the last 4 years, I've been doing all her coaching. And it's really been a joy to see her progression, her maturation in the process, and to see her go from just doing shows to actually winning shows to actually qualifying for Olympia, the Masters Olympia. She's willing to put the work in. That's why I love her. She puts so much hard work into her prep. Consistency, day in and day out, the same routine, and blocks out all the noise, just does the work, and when you have a competitor like that, you have to treat that with like a blessing in disguise, because so many people are not able to do that. So when you get someone that can truly just really stay focused throughout 18 weeks, 20 weeks, 16 weeks, whatever we need to get there, it's like a trainer's dream come true. So if you ever need someone to model after in terms of your work ethic, Ann is great. Ann Gruber, check her out on Instagram, and continue to watch me, and you'll be seeing more clips from her.
Yeah, y'all been together for like 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When did you meet Fred?
Yeah, I met him in 2020, I believe it was, because I had a friend who was training with him and he kept telling me, you gotta come see Fred. And he really doesn't live far from me. He's in Delaware, which is only about 40, 30 to 45 minutes from me. So I am initially just scheduled an appointment with him because I knew, he's known in the bodybuilding world as a great poser. And so I was like, well, let me go meet him. I'll have him, choreograph a posing routine for me and help me with my posing. So that's how it started. And I went to him for posing. And then quickly I did my very first personal training session with him, which was a leg day. And I remember thinking during that leg workout, I thought I was going to throw up. I thought I almost passed out. I had to lay on the ground. And I said, I can't do this. I'm never coming back, is what I said to myself in my head. And then we went to his office afterward, and he said to me, as if he could read my mind, most people are not willing to get uncomfortable to make the changes they need to make to compete at this level. And you're going to have to get really, really uncomfortable if you want to be successful at this point. And I was like, ah, shit. Now I'm stuck. Like, I gotta keep going to this guy because if I don't, I'm like, I just knew this is what I had to do. So after that first workout with him, I don't think I've missed a week. It's been 5, 6 years, and I've never, I've seen him every week since then. So we really have clicked, and we've done a lot of shows together at this point, and we've just fallen into a great rhythm. And he knows myself mentally, and he knows me physically. He knows everything about me so well. And I feel like with a coach, it's so important. It can't just be, I love having that sort of face to face contact with somebody. And also, he knows so much what's going on in my life because, it's so mental, contest preps. You need that motivation sometimes. And sometimes it's not just about giving somebody a diet and saying, follow this and it being that easy. Like, you have to mentally be in the right place. So
Mm.
that's for him. He always knows kind of where I'm at, what he needs. If I'm needing a cheat meal, he knows when he has to give me a little bit of a refeed. You know what I mean? So to keep me going, and we just kind of have really fallen into a great rhythm. It's been like seamless. So this last prep was it was a piece of cake almost. You know what I mean? I can get ready in 10, 12 weeks at this point, and be ready to go. So because he's just learned my body and my mind so well. So
Mhm.
that's
That's
why
good.
I
That's
just
good.
never understand people who kind of coach hop. Unless, of course, you haven't found the right one. But I just love it. Took us a couple years to get there, to get to that point. The first year wasn't the best year, but then after that, it's gotten better and better. So because I had to learn to trust him, and he, had to learn about me. So it's a process.
Yeah, that's what I think people need to learn about bodybuilding. It is a process,
Hmm.
understanding the nuances, the growth development,
Yeah.
especially when you compare it to men and women. Because men and women, I say this, we're the same race, but we're different species.
Hmm.
Men can put on muscle a lot faster because we have natural testosterone.
Yeah.
Women, y'all don't. And then that's one thing people talk about bodybuilding because you take steroids, you get all big and ripped and huge and on and on. But again, that's only the small factor of the process. If
Yeah.
you don't stay consistent,
Yeah.
persistent, determined, disciplined. Again, there's days like you don't want to go to the gym, but you still go because you want to grow and develop.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing people need to understand about this. We have here a comment from Mate. He says this. Shout out to him. He says, physique and bodybuilding require different posing styles. One more fluid, one more powerful. How are you adapting your stage presence to fit the women's bodybuilding power aesthetic?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. And I noticed that immediately, when I first started practicing my women's bodybuilding poses, I was like, God, this feels like a lot more powerful. You know what I mean? It feels a lot different. And for me, it felt really good because I have always been extremely insecure of my waistline. I've just felt like I don't have great flow. You know what I mean? I don't think and I mean, there still needs to be great flow in women's bodybuilding. Don't get me wrong, but I think women's bodybuilders tend to have thicker waistlines just because they're lifting heavier, you know what I mean? And you're building up your core a little bit more. I've noticed that in women's physique, the judges will pick a softer girl with better shape over a harder girl who doesn't have that waistline, you know what I mean? And that has not served me well. Like I've never turned around and, I can turn around and win a back shot, by a million miles, but it'll never win me a show from behind ever. And when they say shows are won from the back, that is not true in women's physique. But what I liked about women's bodybuilding was I felt really comfortable with those closed fists. I felt a little more powerful. I felt, I liked some of the poses that were assets for me, like that side chest pose. My hamstrings, I have a nice hamstring drop, and I'm able to show that off more in the women's bodybuilding poses. My back, my rear lat spread is a positive, which I can't do with women's physique. So I'm able to spend a little bit more time in poses that are more powerful and probably better for me. And I'm getting judged on them and scored, which I love, So it's nice to know that every pose I do now is getting a score as opposed to just, looking at my shape and physique and kind of determining where I fall in the lineup, So I could potentially lose, my front double bi, but still win, because I win all the other poses, which is encouraging for me.
Yeah, because I know you were at Triple O that first year. That was when Teresa Vosick won. Teresa has a great back, probably one of the best backs in the sport. And then how it said the divisions are really evolving. Like I just picture a while back, and I don't know if you mind this one. I took the same weekend you did Triple O also. Tessa Mess, she was doing figure in my backyard here in North Carolina in Charlotte, and and I took this. And if you look at this, even though you're two different divisions, the aesthetics is almost somewhat similar. I mean, now you're doing women's bodybuilding, but you're doing the kind of the front lap pose. She's doing it in women's physique, and that's the thing is we're seeing competitors, the crossover. As an amateur, you can cross over, and the only time you can cross over as a pro is when you're doing masters. You think that the criteria is really in each division is not being followed to a point where you separate women's physique to women's bodybuilding. We've seen girls who are looking like they could do women's bodybuilding. We've seen girls in figure who look like can do women's physique.
Yeah. I know it's a little bit baffling to me because I see a lot of women's physique girls who easily could jump into bodybuilding. I mean, for the most part, not at Olympia level, but at a lot of the regional shows, you're seeing women's physique girls that are much, much more conditioned than the bodybuilding category. You know what I mean? And I mean, that's just the way they show up. You know what I mean? It's not that they're judging them, but I do feel like sometimes the conditioning is a huge, huge factor in women's physique. More so than I guess I expected it to be, which I don't mind. I'm all about conditioning, and that's an area that's strong for me, and that's another reason why I kind of switched to bodybuilding because I'm like, okay, I know I can bring the conditioning, you know what I mean? But sometimes I do get a little bit confused because I'll see some women's physique girls who are like 5 times my size, and I'm like, well, these girls are seemingly as big as some of the bodybuilders, and I'm just not sure the distinction. But you know, I but they look great in women's physique too. So I don't know. I don't know what they're always looking for. But I I did feel like that's why I wanted to do both. And I said I was thinking about doing Masters World Championships in Pittsburgh because Sandy usually judges that, and it would be cool to kind of get the feedback like, well, where do you see me, bodybuilding or physique? Where am I fitting in better? I don't think I'm quite big enough anyway for bodybuilding, but like I said, structurally, I think if I can put the size on and a little bit more muscle on my legs and back, I think I will fit in a little bit better in bodybuilding at the end of the day. So
Yeah, because we just had the Triple O and Barbara Mojen, who is King Lee. She's 50, and
Yeah.
she won, and she's a unit. She's working out, training a lady I know really well, Melanie Horton up there in Canada. She's
Yeah.
a unit. You look at Salika Givens, you look at some women who have switched divisions, Christina Mendoza, she's going back down to wellness. I think it fits her aesthetic a bit. She has dropped a lot of muscle. But then I'm seeing other women who are going down a division that maybe it's not right for them. And I think genetics
Mhm.
is one factor, because
Yeah.
some women have that, like with wellness, you can have, if that's why some of the Brazilians do so well, because they have the lower dominant half of the body. They have the more rounded glutes, the fuller,
Hmm.
quads. I think some competitors want to stay where they feel like they're safe. But
Yeah.
that's the thing is, you have to, as an athlete, go where you feel like you might do better. Like one of the
Right.
interview, Sherry Pirami, she was doing women's physique for a good while. Now she
Hmm.
moved to women's bodybuilding. She's been a three-time Olympian.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's so much understanding what guidelines, criteria, or where you want to go. But the thing is, I think you said you have to learn to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Like I could have comfortably stayed, but I noticed in women's physique, I haven't been getting any better. My waist isn't really getting any tinier. You know what I mean? Um, and I love to train. So there's no way I'm going to like not continue to train harder and try to put more muscle on because that's just what I love. I just love it. So for me, it was just a fun challenge, and I get it when people are like, oh, she's not big enough for bodybuilding, whatever. I get that, you know what I mean? But this is fun for me. This is a fun hobby. I'm 48 years old and, who knows how much longer I'm going to do this. And I was like, like what's wrong with giving it? Supporting women's bodybuilding, which is a big thing this year, you know what I mean, is trying to get more women's bodybuilders to compete and stuff like that. And, I don't think there was anything harmful about, giving it a whirl, and supporting and being able to, enter these master shows, and I mean, it worked out, because the girl I competed against in Puerto Rico, she's a great bodybuilder. She's a great competitor. And I felt really grateful to be on stage with her, you know what I mean? And to win that show. So um it just gave me a little bit of confidence to hang in there a little while longer and keep competing, so it's kind of what I needed, a little confidence boost.
Yeah, that was Michelle Dornan. I interviewed Michelle a while back. It was a little bit, I think, right before she did her pro debut.
Okay.
She's also in the 50 plus class. She's
Yeah.
also a mother of, I think she has 2 or 3 kids.
Yeah.
And she took a break after 2023, made a comeback. She did Triple O. I was hoping to see more bodies at this show because Triple O was just barely a
Yeah.
week after. But we go back to, again, the cost, the expense of,
Yeah.
getting ready for a show, the prepping,
Yeah.
um,
And he
if
did
like I
kind of put that on a little bit. Like, I don't even think he announced that show until God, maybe December, and I saw it pop up on the schedule and I was like, oh. And I didn't decide to do it until like the end of January because, I just wasn't sure. It was so next year I imagine it'll be bigger.
Yeah, I had the pleasure myself when I was in Tampa. I got to meet Mr. Gardner. I was here
Hmm.
just meeting with Mr. Gardner on my right. I was right beside Isabel Terrell. I tried not to look at Isabel because she's very, you know. And
Hmm.
Kevin Lavone, he's a legend. I told him, Mr. Lavone, you should have missed Olympia twice. And Bob Ciccarello, and I was kind of disappointed when they dropped Wins Body for Chicago Pro. I support that show. I support Wins Body because it was, to me, what get is instead of getting Almost Pro, it was the division. I was a fan of men's bodybuilding because my brother used to get the muscle magazines. He used to love watching and read them because I grew up in the era with He-Man, Thundercats, the muscular characters. But y'all women, y'all kind of, I was going to my pubescent age and y'all kind of changed my mind a bit. Got me twisted some. And really doing this content, I get to learn stuff about y'all ladies, or what inspires you, what drives you. And
Hmm.
bodybuilding, it's like, you remember the old commercial with the Peace Corps, the toughest job you ever loved?
Yeah.
That's what bodybuilding is for a lot of you ladies. I mean, they
Yeah.
tell me, say, I don't do it for the money, I do it because I love it. But then you have some others that feel like, well, this is going to be a career change for me. Or like you said earlier, how some get that pro card and they
Hmm.
don't do nothing afterwards. 'Cause I think they want that pro card as a status symbol,
Right.
because use it as for their social media or whatever else. Because
Exactly.
they had a new rule they put in last year where if you're not active pro, you have to pay the entry fees for
Right.
keep your pro status up, and if you got 3-year ban or something like that,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, for me at this point, it is a hobby. And obviously, it's a hobby that takes up a lot of my time, and I love it, and I think about it all the time. But it's like, it's what gets me excited out of bed in the morning. And I love that whole process. I love the whole process. It takes me to new places. I just feel so blessed to be able to do this. I mean, who can say I'm the oldest I've ever been, and I'm in the best shape that I've ever been? Like, who can say that, right? Like, I can say that, which is pretty cool. So,
Yeah, kind of like
yeah,
my favorite movie, Tombstone, with Doc Holliday says, "Me retired, I'm in my prime." So we
right.
got here. Shout out to my man No Dose. He says this. He says, "What's her greatest supporter? Like, what's it like, especially family, and friends? I know I
Hmm.
see you working out with Big Jane. She's
Hmm.
been a guest on my channel a couple of times.
Yeah,
Like, what's their thoughts? Like your mother and father, brothers and sisters, your
yeah.
family, what their thoughts on your
So I
body?"
live with my mom. She's like a huge, huge supporter. I mean, this was not something she was interested in at all when I first started. She was like, "What are you doing?" You know what I mean? Because their generation, bodybuilding's kind of weird. Like you're getting up on stage in a bikini. It's probably like the last thing your mom wants to see you doing. It's not a show of like, it's not a sport where you can be modest, really. So, but I think, after I moved in with her, God, we've been living together for like at least 10 years now. And she sees what I put into this and, what it entails in the diet and the prep and all of the work. She has a huge appreciation for it, and she is a huge supporter. My sister lives next door to me with my nephew, and they're huge supporters. And then I have a small circle of like really, really close friends, really best friends that are just would be there. They come to my shows, like Puerto Rico, one of my best friends, Jamie, came to my show, and she's been to a million of my shows. And so it's cool. We can share these things together. They understand, they've been through this now with me for years. Some of them have competed. A couple of my best friends, my friend Jamie, my friend Tira, they've both competed. So they know what we go through, and I can share that with them, which is awesome. So yeah,
Yeah, that's good because I know quite a few ladies. It's because this is a stream sport, especially when it goes to women. Because men are allowed to be big and freaky, but women, they don't want you. You have to be
right.
small and dainty. You have to
Uh-huh.
be, very feminine. But this is a sport about you, not about them. And if they
Right.
put their feelings in it, that's a problem. I know, like your mom, she's been to your shows before, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she's there, she's clapping for a baby, she's cheering
Yeah.
for you, and she's excited, and then you got some freak, say, "That's your daughter?" "Yeah, I wouldn't mind having her." "Hey, you sick freak," but
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's true. That's why, it's not the best scene, and she doesn't go to a lot of the shows, but she had set her alarm for Tokyo at midnight because it was midnight here when I was going on stage, and she had her alarm set. She had her live stream ready to go. She has never missed a live stream, and she was sitting in her bed at midnight watching my show for 3 hours. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's really cool. So I
yeah.
love that.
A mama, I miss my mother. We lived together for most of my life. I
Yeah.
lived with with a couple of my sisters for a little bit, but always, this is a true story. This was told to me when I was working at this plant I used to work at. This lady talked to me one day and says, "George, you still live with your mama's son?" I said, "Yes, ma'am, I do." Said, "Well, son, stay with your mama as long as you can. Do what you got to do as a man, but always come home to your mama." And, that's all I
Mhm.
think. That was my woman, as I said again. We
Yeah.
have some comments here. Shout out to our man Dose. He says, "On each show, does she using the same posing routine or different styles?"
That's a good question. It's always different, and I never know what it's going to be. So I am like really horrible at remembering choreography and posing routines. So what happens is I pick a song and I have no idea what I'm going to do. And I just go out there and I wing it. You know what I mean? And I've gotten to the point where it always comes out all right. You know what I mean? And I always make sure I'm hitting my mandatories, and I throw in some fun, pretty poses, and I just kind of pose to the music, and it's always something different. So have not planned a posing routine in years at this point. So I remember like when Fred Smalls, my coach, wins best poser all the time. He has these amazing posing routines. You know, he's dancing on the stage. He's doing jumping, like straddling things and stuff. You know what I mean? And he was like, "Oh, so you got your routine?" And I'm like, "Well," I said, "Yeah." I said, "I don't know." I said, "I thought I'd start with a little something like this. What do you think?" You know, this was like minutes before, and he just kind of shook his head and was like, "Oh, you know, you'll be fine." So just kind of
Yeah.
everybody has their different thing. The posing routine is not my thing. So I just kind of go out and do what I feel like it, and then when I never screw it up because I don't have something planned, you know. So
I remember I got to meet I don't know Ann Gobelaski, if you know Kim Gobeliski.
yeah.
He mispronounced the
Oh
name.
yeah, yeah. I know
I
her.
got met to Tampa. We're talking. Then we did an interview. She said that George, I just wasn't sure she was going to crack that. I think the top 10 at the Tampa. She said she just spammed her posing routine. She just put something together
Yeah.
at the last minute, because that's the important part. Of posing is very important, about practicing posing, how to
Right.
move, how to flow. I
Yeah.
mean, you just can't just say, "Hey, I'm just doing a flex and this and that." You
Right.
got to have fluid to it. Like
Yeah.
I think Mate say, you have to have sort of a look to a style. We have here another
Yeah.
comment from my man. Dose says, he says, "What age she discovers the strong than other people?" I think it was like in your early teens playing tennis. So
Uh-huh.
we go through here. Also, he says, "Did she ever compete against women
No.
and men in arm wrestling?" No.
Have
So,
not. No.
and also shout out to the man Matt. He says, "In WPD, condition is key, but in women's bodybuilding, muscle density is queen. How have you adjusted peak week protocols to ensure you look thick enough for the BB stage without losing your signature sharpness?" Hey, I'm getting some good questions here. Yeah.
It's a really good question. And I think that's exactly what we need to improve on in the next show. You know what I mean? I think that's like he kind of hit the nail on the head. Um, was, you know, my conditioning. I always show up with good conditioning. Like I said, I think that fullness and that density was a little more apparent at Triple O, especially in that front, you know, relaxed position. So I think we can continue. I think this last show, I think I probably could have filled out a little bit more, you know, but we were a little bit conservative, because we didn't want to kind of do too much. But I was pretty depleted. I don't think I'm ever going to spill over, but I think we know next time that I can fill out probably a little bit more and show a little bit more density, you know what I mean? And fill those legs out some more. So, you know, it's like every show is such a learning, you know, curve, you know, to what I do. And we're getting better every show. So now with bodybuilding, the goal this year is, you know, in the off season, the time I have in the off season is to put on as much muscle as I can. And you know, since Triple Dynasty, my stage weight has gone up about 8 pounds, which I've been happy with. I mean, it gets harder when you get older, you know, it slows down the increase in the muscle. So in 2 years to put on, you know, about 8 to 10 pounds of muscle, I have to be happy with that, you know, because I'm conservative with everything I take and everything I do, you know, and I do want to maintain my femininity and Fred knows that's very important to me. And you know, my health comes first, and so it's finding that balance, you know what I mean, where to compete at that level but still kind of have this off-season look that I like for myself, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Especially the debate's always been between muscularity versus femininity. Do you
Hmm.
want to be more or do you want to be less?
Right.
It's important, especially when you're a woman in the sport, because here's the thing that we talked about this on my. We do a podcast every other Monday called Muscle Talk. We talk about stuff that's going on in bodybuilding. People can be not so friendly when it comes to women with muscle.
Hmm.
Like making comments like "you're trying to be a man," and then and I saw this one guy talking about, if you like women with muscles, you're gay. Here's the thing like this. Anne's a lovely lady. She has some pretty eyes too.
Hmm.
And if I'm gay, well, I'm like this. Change my name from Don Juan to Twan. It's funny when you flip to it. There's more guys going watching a bunch of guys wearing a pair of bikini drawers in front of them than, hey, I'd rather see women. That's just me.
Hmm.
Maybe that's my preference.
Right.
Shout out to my man Dose. He says this. He says, did she ever push her limits during her training in the gym, knowing that maybe she almost died in faint? Yeah, she said it earlier with her and Fred. She almost puked.
Yep.
Also, she says, Did she ever had a bad experience with promoters, judges, local people towards her look? Like, especially when you go out in public because you're in New
Yeah.
Jersey, and true story. My parents were together 55 years, but we live in North Carolina. My dad would live in New Jersey. He was living in Patterson. I think that's
Okay.
north. I think.
Yeah, north.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think there's quite a few bodybuilders. Sheena Oleg's there.
Hmm.
I think they did a little
Sheena's
thing.
actually close to me in South Jersey.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
unless she moved, but she used to be like right near me, So
Uh, I
Sheena.
got I, I got to meet Sheena when I was at Savannah. We talking a good
Yeah,
bit.
she's
I gave
awesome.
her I gave her a little Snickers bar. She's a big donut freak too. Because I remember
Yeah,
when I sent
yeah.
her one of my
We're
care
both
packages.
foodies. Yeah.
Yeah, I sent a care package with a big bag of Reese's peanut butter
Yeah.
cups. And
Yeah.
she loved
She
it.
is awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's great. She's a great physique. And
Yeah.
that's also a good example where look at someone like Sheena. She's not as big. She's
Hmm.
kind of like if I compare it to it, she's kind of like the classic women's
Hmm.
bodybuilder. Like
Yeah.
maybe I would say around about the Linda Murray, Kim
Hmm.
Javetsky era. If you look at her,
Yeah. 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 I agree.
right?
Um, so yeah, Sheena always looks amazing on stage. She has a great physique and just such a fun person to be around too. Just the friendliest person. So
Yeah. Is there anybody in the sport that you admire their work, their ethics, overall their physique, especially just
yeah.
whatever division, bodybuilding, physique, who you really admire as you see in this sport?
Um, well, I do love my favorite female bodybuilder is Barbara Muchin. I just love her physique. I just think from a feminine perspective, just everything about her I've always admired. So she is one of my favorite female bodybuilders. But you know, when it comes to I don't know. That's actually a really good question and one I haven't really thought about. I train around a lot of people that are awesome motivators and people I look up to, but um, Fred for me has been a huge mentor. And just I've modeled my training, he's taught me how to be a better trainer, how to be a better competitor. Um, just I've really clicked with him on a mental level and it's just been cool to kind of ride this journey along with him. So I would say probably he's my number one role model in the sport is Fred. So and he's he just turned 50, so we're kind of in the same boat. It's
I can't believe it. I look at that guy. I'm a year and a half older than him, and I should be ashamed of myself. I don't know what I mean, what did I do wrong? But I would say, following the sport for a long time, there's so many amazing people I follow. One person I always I can't help it. I'm in love with her. She's such an amazing person. I would love it. I actually got to see her guest posing when she was at Tampa, and that is Andrea
mm,
Shaw. I just love her.
yeah.
I tell you a true story. A friend of mine, this is my friend Eunice. She runs a company called Bad Rap. And
Yeah, I
that's
know
us
her.
in Tampa,
Yes.
yeah. And that's David Lee Roth between the both of us.
Yeah.
And this is a true story. She was at the Olympia back in 2023, and she was hanging around. And she ran to Andrea, and she got me this. And it was like, well, we got my birthday. She said, George, something
Mm,
coming in the mail. It's an issue of muscular development.
it's cool.
And what makes it special for me is that the champ, she signed it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this is what
Yeah.
really, because some days dealing with y'all ladies, it can be a lot,
Yeah.
the mental aspect of it. Just in trying to reach out, say, hey, I want to do an interview with you. Some say, nah, I'm kind of introverted. You walk around, you be butt naked on stage. So you're
Right.
introverted for you to talk to me on
Right.
a computer?
Exactly. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, Andrea, I haven't had, I've talked to her a little bit and she is the nicest person and the biggest takeaway is her humility and I just think she is an awesome role model for the sport. So I would love to get to know her better and be able to talk to her more, I just haven't had that opportunity other than at Triple Dynasty and wherever, whatever shows we've been at together, but she definitely is somebody that I look up to for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, right now, Women's Physique, there's a little issue between two of the former champion, ex champion. I don't know the details of that one. That's a mess.
mhm.
We
Yeah.
got here. Shout out to my man David from Female Bodybuilding Forum. Shout out to David. He
Mm.
came through. He says, and it's so awesome and beautiful. Congrats on your Masters
Thank
O
you,
qualification.
David. Yes, he's
Shout,
great.
yeah, he's my brother. We ran together. But one thing
Yeah.
I got a problem with, he has handled my girl a couple of times. Also, my man Mate is saying this. He says, with the victory in Puerto Rico, you're proving you can win in bodybuilding. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Also, he says, does this mean your sights are now set exclusively on Miss Olympia stage, or do you still feel there is unfinished business in the physique division?
Yeah, that's like a really, really good question, and one I'm kind of trying to figure out right now, you know? Like that's what I said. It's like maybe I'll try to do both at Masters World in front of Sandy, get another judge's feedback. I did horrible in women's physique in Puerto Rico. Like not horrible, I shouldn't say. The other three girls are amazing competitors. Like so it was good quality women's physique girls at this show, even though there was only four of us and I came in last place. And like to me, that was like the answer. Like, okay, maybe women's physique is not for you. You know what I mean? And I can legit look at these front shots, of the lineup of the four of us and be like, yeah, you lost like from the front. You definitely lost those shots. Because I'm very honest with myself. I can be honest when I see pictures. And I thought the judges nailed it. I thought everything was accurate. I think I was strong from behind, but I don't think that made a difference, in the lineup because clearly I was losing that front shot. I think it was close in women's bodybuilding from the front. It was a little bit closer, but it then showed me, oh, okay, I am being judged now on my side shots and my back shots, and so maybe I have a better chance. So I am steering more my focus, yes, towards women's bodybuilding because that seems to be maybe where I could potentially have more success and where the judges have seemed to have kind of steered me in that direction. I think I'll do better. I need to put muscle on to do better, but I'm gonna do it at my pace. You know what I mean? And so I'm not gonna push something and push my health or anything like that. So
Yeah, because
I
you only
think I'll
have one
grow into
body.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you only have one body. Take the time to grow. I mean,
Right.
I think with a lot of young competitors, they want everything quick, fast, in a hurry. It's
Right.
not going to work like that. It takes time to grow, and you're hitting your. I would say, with a lot of ladies like yourself, hitting their muscle maturity
Yeah.
when you have grown, taking years. And it does, as I said, like you said earlier, it does take a lot of time for us when we are now in our
Hmm.
midlife to cut
Yeah.
muscle. Right now, one lady I'm looking at, I got to meet when I was in Tampa. Paula Ranta. She's not even 30 years old
Mm.
yet. This girl,
Her
I
legs.
just the
Yeah.
legs. I mean, it's just she. I posted on my YouTube channel where it's a video with her working out doing legs on its leg extensions, and it looked like it was like a road map. You mean
Right.
it's like
It's
where's
crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. And I think
Yeah.
the thing is that she has that advantage of youth. She still can
Yeah.
grow, but
Yeah.
here with us, I would tell her slow down a little bit. You're still young,
Right.
relax, take your time, don't rush. Because
Right.
she did like 5, 6, 8 shows that year.
Oh my God.
I was to
Yeah.
take a step back because you want to
Right.
burn out because we've seen what happens when you put so much yourself into this sport.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how people do it, honestly. I mean, every show takes so much out of me. You know what I mean? And I sit there and think, I don't know how these girls do 3, 4, or 5 shows. Like, that week of prepping and dialing in for that show is just, it's exhausting. And it's like mentally, emotionally, like physically exhausting. So that's why I've never really done more than 2 to 3 shows a year, if three. Usually it's just two. So I may do another show, but like I said, it wouldn't be until I had thought about doing New York Pro. I kind of had that in my head.
It
And
would be the
had I
perfect time.
won and done really great in Puerto Rico in physique, yeah, I would have done. But I'm like, no, like, what am I doing? Like, I don't need to be doing New York Pro. Like, so I'm just gonna give myself a time. I got some birthdays I want to celebrate. I got some cake I want to eat, and maybe if the desire hits me, I might do something in September, October. You know what I mean? Again, but um, for now, I'm just gonna enjoy my life and training again and being able to get ice cream with my nephew, and so yeah,
Yeah, enjoy the food. I mean, it's just,
exactly.
just enjoy your cravings. We have here a comment from my man. Shout out to my brother David says, "Is Ann going to stick with women's bodybuilding division instead of physique going forward? Forgive me if I mentioned it. Tuned in later. Well, she's always said she's right now. She's in the process. She's taking her time. She's planning on doing the masters championship in Pittsburgh, which is
Maybe.
maybe
Maybe. I'm
plan, maybe.
50-50 on it. Yeah.
Once you speak it out in the universe,
I
it's
know.
gonna happen. That's a thing. You gotta be
Not
careful when you say
sure.
it.
I decided I do shows when I'm mentally like when it's the right thing. You know what I mean? You got to be mentally ready. So
Yeah,
if I'm feeling that way in like June, July, like okay, I'm ready to dial it in, then I'll do it. But
yeah.
we'll
You don't
see.
want to drag yourself in the show and then you look like shit.
Exactly.
Be
It's never a
disappointed.
good prep if you're not mentally ready for it. So
That's the thing about bodybuilding. It's both mentally, physically, emotionally, financially draining, spiritually
right.
draining, because you're taking so much of yourself and putting it into something. Like we are
Mhm.
talking earlier, how people like friends and family may not understand it because you can't, like you want to celebrate your birthday. When's your birthday?
My birthday, it was the end of January, but I got
Oh,
all my birthday meals in right before I started prep and I had them early. So
yeah.
yeah.
That's great. We have here a comment from my man Mate. He says, "Does she mean you sites on?" Oh, I think I said that earlier.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
got that one.
I gotta get my. It said, did she ever dream entering Guinness Book of
Yeah,
Records?
never thought about that.
Shout out to him. He says, "What's her daily routine on and off season?"
It's pretty much the same. I literally live the same. I drink the same exact amount of water every day at the same exact time. I chuckle to myself when I get up in the morning because I'm like, oh my God, I am so OCD regimented about when I take my vitamins. I get up, I do my fasted cardio, I take a shower, I eat breakfast, I start with clients at 6 a.m. So it's almost identical other than me removing that one cheat meal a week during my prep. That's the only thing that changes. And my cardio, whatever. Like my cardio goes up a little bit. So
Yeah, it's like when you go to the gym, like especially get up, I get up in the morning, like 4 o'clock in the morning. You go there
yeah.
with Fred. Which is that your favorite workout? You say, I love doing this, and then one said, "Damn, Fred, I don't want to do this shit. I don't want to do it today."
Yeah. Um shoulders is my favorite body part to train. Shoulders and back, but generally shoulders is my favorite body part to train. So yeah, that's
And which
pretty
is
much it. But
one you say, it's your dreaded enemy. You can't stand.
legs would my yeah. But honestly, if somebody's not saying legs and they're not training them hard enough, I don't think so.
I had quite a few women come and said leg day is your favorite day. I call me the
Okay.
sick, sadistic
Yeah,
freak.
it's the sick thing. I've
Yeah,
learned to love training legs, but it scares me because that's the scariest. You know what I mean? That's definitely the hardest workout of the week. So
it made me think about this. It was my favorite episode from Chappelle's show. It was like Charlie Murphy, True Horror Stories, when they made Rick James and they invite Rick James over to Eddie's house. And Dave Chappelle's Rick James, he's on the couch, says, "F your couch, Eddie Murphy, F your couch," and they're beating his legs. So it feels like Eddie Murphy and Charlie Murphy beating legs on leg day. So shout out here to my man David. He says, "What happened to your hair, George? I'm not familiar with this young buck. Well, brother, it's getting a little warmer now. I had to shave my hair. I got to shed my fur. It's growing back bit by bit. I'm like this. My family's like that. My mama had hair like steel. My dad had hair like wool. I had steel wool. Shout out to my man Mate. He says this. He says, Matea. He says, if she decides to commit 100% to bodybuilding for the 2026 Olympia, how will your off-season training change? Are there physique standard limitations you're excited to finally move past?
no, I don't. There's never been any women's physique limitations. Like there are with classic physique and weight and all that. Like there's never been that for women. But I am excited to just be able to continue to put muscle on and train hard and that be a focus. I feel like have a pretty balanced physique as far as that's concerned, so I can sort of build everywhere. You know, but yeah, I mean, 2026 Olympia is not in my sights. I'm not even sure if I'm going to do an open show, bodybuilding show. I probably wouldn't do something like that until next year or whenever, like I put on enough muscle, but I might just stick with Masters for now. So I'm just grateful I qualified for Masters Olympia next year and I kind of have that to look forward to. But Yeah, I can't say I wouldn't do another women's physique show. I would do another like even masters women's physique show, because I do think that muscle wise I fit into that. Just structurally, I think I fit in better to bodybuilding. So as I grow, then I can kind of fully make that transition.
It's about as you evolve over time,
Right.
especially when you are much older. I mean, I know Sherry Plum is going to be turning 51 in a few months.
Hmm.
So other ladies, I think they feel comfortable in a certain division like masters, like the lovely
Yeah.
Miss Robin Mays. She phenomenally won her first qualification in Toronto. Then
Yeah.
she was good at this show. I've interviewed Robin before. We
Hmm.
might see her maybe compete in another show later on, and she still holds her own with women. She's going to be 60 this year,
I know she looks
and yeah,
amazing.
yeah, and still holding her own with
Yeah.
women who are half her age. And that's the
Right.
thing is, it's about how where you feel comfortable at.
Right.
I don't think
Exactly.
everybody's going to jump into the open class because you
Right.
have ladies like when we talk about Puerto Rico, there was one girl. She just did her first show in figure. She did Triple O, that did Tri City. Then she did the Puerto Rico, and then she flied all the way and did
Mm.
the Battle of the Bodies,
Right.
and that's the cost and the expense
That's
and the
a lot.
training and anything, and
Yeah.
it's a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not, I'm not doing shows just to do shows. I'm doing them for the experiences now. You know what I mean? And I'm not looking to wear my body out and wear my bank account out. And you know what I mean? So I pick my shows carefully and kind of at the right time and right point in my life. And I want it to be fun, at this point. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
like Tony Montana Scarface. I kill for fun. Yes,
Yeah, exactly.
you want to enjoy yourself. So, folks,
Exactly.
we got one more question. We're going to leave to my man Dose. Just my man, no, my man, and my man David says, has Ann
Mm,
had to deal with any weird fans lately, like the roundtable of fans from the past Sunday? Yeah, we had a discussion about
mm,
how people can be again weird.
yeah.
Guys, like that's why I say my conversation with y'all ladies have guys. I talk about how guys say weird shit. You have two sides. You have the guys who say, you're just this big plump looking man chick.
Hmm.
And you have the other side where the guys are saying, I like you, Ann. I'm gonna
Yeah.
sing you something. It's
I
just
mean, it's been such a long time now. I've had so many horrible, horrible things said to me and about me and posted. And then I have wonderful things that people say, and there's always going to be these weird trolls out there that have nothing better to do with their lives. You know what I mean? And I don't take anything personally. I'm comfortable with myself. That's all that matters. I'm happy with myself. I like the way that I look. And that's all I really care about at this point. Like I've kind of gotten past at the age where it doesn't phase me too much. It can be hurtful for a second, and then I'm like, you know what? The you know they I don't know what those people are doing, but I'm doing my thing. I'm happy, and it doesn't bother me too much. But yes, I get a lot of mixed messages, online. That's why I kind of hate social media. I try to stay off of it a little bit, and I don't follow as many, competitors and interact as much, just because it can kind of mess with my head a little bit. So I just kind of stay in my lane and do my own thing, and it turns out better that way. So
yeah. Well, with me, I have sometimes I'm one of my favorite movies, Batman Begins, and there's a quote from Liam Neeson, who played Ra's al Ghul, the Demon's Head, my master. He says, "Beware of your surroundings of all time, young Master Wayne. You never get a show
mm,
for a killing blow." And that
yeah,
thing, I would say like this: I wouldn't waste too much time with these guys. They can't even bust a grape. They don't
right,
have the same passion or consistency like y'all in the
right,
sport, about a man or woman. It's just easy to pick on somebody because you don't have that same discipline. It's
right.
easy to say, she looks like a man. I don't see nothing manly about this woman. I don't know. I'm a
Mm,
man. I get boobs because
mm,
some women in bodybuilding. But this is about you. This is about what you want. And if
right,
somebody does, like, his best advice, my mama say, you can't say nothing nice, don't say nothing at all. We have
exactly.
here a few more comments, and I think we might finish up
Just
here.
so you know, I don't have my plug for my computer, and it's going to die any minute. So
Yeah,
just so you know.
yeah. About okay, we're gonna finish off here. My man Dan Murphy here says, first met in
Hmm.
2014. She was still blonde. You were
Yeah,
blonde?
that's
Yeah,
true. I was blonde. Yeah, that's
yeah,
crazy. He's
yeah.
known me
So
a
I said,
long time.
Dan, have you ever been a victim of catfishing?
Yes, I have. I have. It's awful. That's why I stay off the internet now.
Yeah.
So
One thing I would love to do if I could do it, I would love to sponsor some of you ladies if I can. Support y'all. I mean, not like some guys saying, "Hey, man, I got some ideas for you." There's an old small saying, "We all rock hard here." No, you sick freak. This is what you're supposed to, ladies. Say, Mrs. Gruber, we are interested in your story, your law degree, your experiences, your life as a bodybuilder. If you feel it's just something, our product is some comfort and you're using your process, we'd love to help you. And also, in exchange, you'll be ambassador for us, and we're helping you along your way in your career as a bodybuilder. So, if you feel interested or something you feel like might help you, and if our products that works for you, let us know.
thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I wish I can do that. I wish I had, one person. I wish I had like Jake Wood money. Yo,
Right,
Jake,
right.
yo, Jake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So my last question for you: what would you want for yourself towards your future as a bodybuilder?
You know what? I've achieved all my goals, and that's why now this is fun for me. I made it to the Olympia, I made it to Masters Olympia, and those were ultimately your ultimate goals as a pro bodybuilder, right? A pro IFBB pro. Um, and so at this point, I just want it to be, something that gives me fulfillment and a reason to get out of bed in the morning, and that's what it's doing. You know what I mean? It makes me excited. You know what I mean? That's what I love. And when bodybuilding stops being exciting to me and it feels like a chore, then that's when I've known I've reached the end of my road. But I don't see that happening. You know, I just don't. I don't feel burnout. I just love the best part of my day is my workout, and so that's what I get out of bodybuilding. It's just the discipline, the people I've met, the places I've gone, and that's what I want to continue to get out of bodybuilding. So the relationships and the experiences. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like Rocky Balboa says, it's not how hard you can take the hits, how hard you can hit and take the hits, but keep moving forward. That's how
yeah,
it's winning thing. You have to really keep moving forward because there's days we don't want to do this, and that's the difference between motivation and discipline. When you have that
exactly.
discipline, it keeps you going.
Yeah.
One more thing here from a man, Dan Murphy says, "Is she pretending being a good bodybuilder?" Also, shout out
I
to the
hope
man
not.
Dose. He says, "Don't give a BS about what bad people think about you. We all love here and all women bodybuilders in the world." Also, he says this one more. I says, "And we all also respectable towards George and his guests. Thank you, brother. I appreciate respect and you
Mhm.
know how I feel." Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. Like my other guy says, "I don't like respect. I don't like things that go wrong." Oh, and before I let you go, Ann, I want to tell you something. You are beautiful. I'm sorry about him. I gotta keep him on the ramps. So, do you have anybody want to shout out before we let you go?
No, I think I shouted out everybody I wanted to shout out. My coach, my family, my friends, so yeah. And thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity, so it's been really nice chatting with you.
Well, it is. I do appreciate the opportunity when I get chat to you ladies. And again, whenever y'all say thank you to me, this for me, this is for me, this gives me a purpose. And when I hear thank you, I go back to again my favorite movie is Batman Begins when Batman says to Jim Gordon says, "I need a chance to say thank you," and he turns around and says, "You never have to." That's why I do this because
Mhm.
y'all ladies need a voice. Everybody's paying attention to the guys, but we should pay
Yeah.
attention to y'all ladies too. And like there's an old saying I gotta say, it may not be the '80s, but I'm down with you ladies.
Right.
So we have here one more. Gonna let the man Mate says this. He says, "Thank you, and
Mm.
answering my questions." We appreciate it for the questions, brother. Thank you.
Great
I mean,
questions.
there's a, yeah, a lot of so many, but I couldn't get it all to because hey, when I get a
Yeah.
lady like you, and I hear these guys be like, "Hey, she's a hot chick. I want to see you talk to her." So, folks, we do like to thank the lovely Miss Gruber for coming through.
Thank you.
If you are interested in supporting her, reach out and show your interest. Don't be that weird guy. Also, she might be doing a show. We're not sure just yet. She has to be in the mood for it, but
Right.
you never
Yeah.
know. You never
Got to be in
know.
the mood.
Yeah. So again, I think my man Nados, Mate, Curtis, my brother David, all who was here, who watched, who followed, subscribe, support these men and women sport bodybuilding. We chat in genuine
Mhm.
interest. This is your man all the way George Page, aka the Emperor of Female Body Talk. Don't like, subscribe. Good night, good luck, God bless, and see y'all next time.